Hello and welcome to the CNBC TV 18 special. We are in conversation with the new CII President Shobana Kamineni, who has become in fact the first woman president for the industry chamber. Shobana, many congratulations for becoming the first woman CII President. Little late off the block CII, but better late than never.
Thanks, Ron. Actually, that's what I said. It's about time,
well, even
boys.
the finance minister said this.
He did. He spoke about the glass ceiling, and it's a proud moment for me personally, and I think that it's appropriate for CII because this CII really sets the example for industry. So when they send a strong messaging like this, it's important.
All right. I sat through your presentation, and of course the big takeaway was the growth numbers that you projected for the Indian economy going forward. 7.5 to 8%. That's actually substantially higher than what even IMF has proposed. Or IMF has forecast about 7.2% for the Indian economy. Take me through the rationale behind it, because when we speak with companies, they still say that the demand is somewhat lukewarm. Not with respect to the consumer durables industry where we're seeing growth, but especially the large infrastructure projects. They're not seeing the kind of demand revival, yet you feel it could go up as high as 8%.
I'm from industry, so we have these KRAs. And when we projected this, we said, how does this happen? How can you get 1% more? And the quick takeaways, there's a depth in it, but if you talk about GST, if it gets implemented, and it will, because industry is ready, so after the first quarter of hiccup, it should actually kick up in terms of, and we can probably get, even up to 0.5% from GST.
Correct.
Smooth implementation and deep implementation, much easier to do business, cross borders, and the transaction costs will be reduced. So I like GST as my first one. The second one would be about the second one would be about when we solve some of the NPA problems and unbottlenecking of this, you will actually get 6 lakh crores, which is off those balance sheets, and you'll get companies which are ready to do business. It's going to improve credit offtake, and which dovetails, most of these are infrastructure projects.
Right.
We must understand that the government spent 13% more on infrastructure last year.
Because they were also trying to make up for the tepid private sector investment.
They'll still do it. If you look at Bharatmala, Sagarmala, if you look at the rail projects from the high-speed rail project, if you look at the freight corridors, I mean, and state level, states are joining the party. If you look at Lighthouse, Madhya Pradesh, that has grown for the last 3 years, 14%. Even Agri doesn't have to stay behind at 4%. We do think that, so I think that when everybody comes to the party and kick-started through big investments, and that's where I think it will create. The next one is, we all talk about urbanization. We don't understand really. We said let it happen in 2032 or this far. Suppose we were able to accelerate it. India today, only 33% are in cities. Unlike China, Indonesia, which is much larger. If we can accelerate that growth, we are actually creating. The people in cities earn and save 2.5 times a rural income. So I think here's opportunities, and the government is spot on when they talk about 20 million homes. Who's going to build that? So those are the construction sector is another big one, and I'm not even getting to services where I think there are opportunities in tourism. Every million spent, 78 jobs. With this.
In fact, I will get into each of these regions that you So you've said that one big policy intervention that's going to happen is, of course, GST rollout, and you're saying, but you are expecting at least like a short-term sort of it's going to take, a disruption, not a disruption, but at least in the short run, at least the first quarter is what you're seeing. There could be a bit of an impact, just trying to adjust to a whole new system like
all
GST.
over the world.
All over the world. So So you're saying July 1st is now an acceptable deadline as far as CII is concerned, because industry and some CII members have also gone on record to say that perhaps September 1st is a more sort of a doable deadline, which will allow industry also to sort of embrace it and align their systems and processes with GST. But you're saying July 1st is what?
You'll never be perfectly ready.
But you're ready.
I think that, yeah,
but as
most of us, we've been doing workshops after workshops from the smallest to the largest of cities, from the smallest industry. And I think that we've socialized it for 10 years.
So you've been ready for a while, and GST has been...
I mean, the idea has been socialized. The actual implementation, because we have to find, the clarity which is still coming in. And you can't, say that this is just one tax. They've nuanced it, it's good. And this will evolve. Yeah, and it will become better as the days go by.
And the GST Council will again shortly be meeting to discuss the final rates. But July 1 is now...
from industry.
From industry's perspective.
Yeah.
The other key policy intervention is, of course, a possible resolution to an NP, at least agreeing upon a new mechanism to address that issue. What the government is talking about is an ordinance amendment to Section 35(1) of the Banking Regulation Act. What sort of a push-up will it give, do you feel, at least in the short run, to the GDP?
An exact number, what I would say is credit offtake, plus those projects that are stalled will come on stream. So that's a double benefit that's going to happen. And the third thing is, which people don't realize, the people that are stuck, the honest projects that are stuck, those are actually participants of the infrastructure boom that will happen now. So they can get back into the economy and be productive. So net, I think that it'll more than anything else, it'll improve credit offtake.
And do you feel there's a need also to differentiate between the willful defaulters and those who have? I mean, but but the question is, there is often a very thin line, because it often also depends a lot on interpretation.
Which is
50
why
accounts, that's what
there are about 50 accounts. And more than that, don't give it to the person. I heard somewhere someone said it should not be the responsibility of only one person, unless of course they're terminally ill. Because many players, you don't want to put that kind of a interpretation, because there will be interpretation, but let it be collective. And I think that's what the ordinance and everything will come out to be.
But what are you really hoping for from resolution? Credit offtake, you feel, is going to give a push-up. You feel, once the stalled projects get revived, that's also going to give perhaps an infrastructure push. It's going to see a revival in perhaps the demand for steel, cement.
And more than anything else, the bank will have a way forward. This bankruptcy code and everything that they put now, everything has to fall in tandem, because now they fight shy. You can be the best of companies, but if you're an MSME and an SME, they find it tough. So that all these things are towards a mechanism to allow banks also.
You mentioned in your presentation also how you want the government to give preference to domestic industry when it comes, or industries that manufacture.
Did I say that?
When it comes to sourcing, when it comes to especially in terms of the large government contracts. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I think I heard you say. And at least a part of that the government has accepted in the latest steel policy that they've announced. The cabinet has also cleared that when it comes to government, again, acquisition, preference will be given to ones that are made in India. Just talk to me a little about it. I mean, because many would say in a globalized world, why give preference? I mean, if somebody wins a bid which comes in a lower cost, that should be prioritized rather than something that is manufactured here.
Let's flip that.
All right.
I think that it was a clause that was not there, that across the world countries put it. So we just flagged that why don't you put that here are Indian companies that you need to, and which is why the large projects, a lot of Indian companies would not have been able to qualify unless and they should. They very much should. So I think that it was something that the government in its wisdom understood that around the world people do it, and why should we be shy? And it's not like we're not encouraging to undertake this $1 trillion of new investments. It can't all be done from India. And if you see, much of that trillion is coming from multilateral infusions. So the Japanese are here in India, the Germans are here, Turkey was recent, the president was recently here, and he had some fantastic this thing, China. So everyone wants to come to the party.
Right.
So shouldn't India be at the party too?
And therefore, India's policies should be aligned to what has been
Of course, and we shouldn't be shy about it.
Let's talk about the big elephant in the room, the jobs. All right, and you and I, we were at a seminar about a week or so ago, and there, Arvind Panagaria was also there, and somebody from industry asked him about jobs, saying that this is one of the biggest failures of this government. He flipped that question onto the industry and said, government does not create jobs, industry creates jobs. Government at best can create the enabling environment for investments to trickle in, and that will create jobs. Do you think the onus is also on industry to address that issue rather than blaming the government? I mean, not that industry blaming the government, but usually governments are held accountable for not creating enough jobs.
So Ron, we did, after Arvind Panagaria spoke, we went back and did some homework and realized that there are 400 million jobs, currently in India. Out of that, the organized sector is 22 point something million. So it's minuscule. And every year, we add 3.7 million jobs. So when people turn around and say India needs 1 million jobs a year, I think that they're not looking at what they must understand is that there are a million people per month that get to the age of 15 that could work. But many of them don't want to work. Right. They go for education, they stay at home, they get married.
So half are ruled out immediately.
Half are ruled out.
Right.
So we're really talking about a really manageable figure. If we get 5 million, my KRA gets achieved.
5 million in a year.
Yeah, new jobs.
New jobs. Net
and the thing is that once the economy picks up, there'll be more women that participate. More people will come in out of the balance. But then we would be in that virtuous cycle.
On that note, let's slip into a break. Our conversation with Shobana Kamineni, the new CII president, continues on the other side. Stay tuned.